Okay, chapter 2.3, multiplying and dividing rational numbers. This is just like multiplying and dividing other numbers, but because they're rational, it means that we're in between the numbers, which gives us fractions and or decimals. But the rules are the same. When we divide a negative number and a positive number, our quotient is negative. Just like when we multiply two negatives, the quotient is negative. Sorry, when we multiply a negative and a positive, the quotient is negative. So I got distracted by the pop-up on my screen. So we're going to do that. The second thing we have to remember is when we divide fractions, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. So those are two little things we just have to remember from before. We have to remember how to work with fractions, change a mixed number to an improper fraction. So we're going to do that. This becomes negative 26. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 1. 26 fifths, and then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of this is 7 thirds. So the reciprocal of that is going to be 3 sevenths. So 2 1/3 is 7 thirds, and the reciprocal is 3 sevenths. And then we're just going to multiply. Now we might need to use a calculator to figure out what 26 times 3 is. We know that 25 times 3 is 75. So we know that we could probably figure out that's 78. And 5 times 7 is 35. Now we have to remember that when we multiply a negative times a positive, it stays negative. And then we just have to simplify. 35 twice is 70, so 35 is going to go into 78 two times. And we'll have 8 35ths left over. And that's about what you come up with. Now, if we just look at this, and we just kind of think about the numbers 5 1/5, if I divided by 2 1/3, if I kind of just round those, I would say 5 divided by 2. But that's not very practical, so I might decide to go 6 divided by 2, which is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And our answer should be somewhere between 2 and 3. A reasonable answer would be like 2.5. And when we look up here, my answer is 2 8/35. That's reasonable. It's somewhere between 2 and 3. And I just decided to round these numbers to something that made relative sense. 5.5 is close to 5, but I can't divide 5 by 2 very well in my head. Well, I can. It's 2.5. But it might be that you're looking for whole numbers, which is why we did a 6 and a 4. Okay. One more problem, or maybe more than one more problem. What about if we do negative 2.5 times 3.6? Now again, we have a negative times a positive. This is just standard multiplication, though. We're going to forget about the negative for a while. We're not going to forget about it, but we're going to kind of put it on the side. And we're also going to do the same thing with our decimals. We're going to kind of put our decimals over here. We've got 2 decimal places, and we have a negative sign. And then we're just going to say 25 times 36. So we're going to take the decimals out, and we're going to take that negative sign out, but we'll put it back in at the end. 5 times 6 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3. And then we have to carry our place value, because this isn't really 3, it's really 30. So 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus that 1 is 7. And then we add our 2 groups of numbers. We've got to carry that 1 up there. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then we get 9. So 900 would be 25 times 36. But we have to remember that we had a negative sign. When we multiply a negative times a positive, our answer is going to stay negative. And then we also have to remember there was 2 decimal places, one place here and one place here. It wasn't really 25 times 36. It was 2.5 times 3.6. And we have to remember to save those decimal places and put them back in. And this is exactly how you do it. You just imagine there's no decimals. Go ahead and do the multiplication and then put your decimals back in. You can't just bring the number straight down. It doesn't work that way in multiplication. It definitely does for addition, but not for multiplication. So this is what the answer should look like. Negative 9 would be a simple way to write that. Look at one more, and then I'll let you do some more on your own. Let's look at something simple like 1/3 divided by negative 2 2/3. Okay, so again we've got a division sign, which means multiply by the reciprocal, but let's go ahead and just rewrite it so that we can get this written as a mixed number. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8/3, so it's negative 8/3. When I bring that down and rewrite it as a multiplication problem, 1/3 multiplied by negative 3/8. Now the neat thing here is that we can use the simplify before you multiply rule. I know that 3 over 3 is the same as 1 over 1. 3/3 is the same as 1. So I can simplify, cross cancel or whatever you want to call it, simplify before I multiply. That rhymes and I like it. So this becomes a 1 and this becomes a 1. And then you just have 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 8 is 8. And you just have to remember that you have to keep that negative sign because you have a positive times a negative, so your answer is still going to be negative. It's negative 1/8. So this is the problems we've done so far were bigger and more complicated. This is a simpler one. You still have to show your work. We need to see stuff on your page that looks like this. You're going to have a few easy ones and you're going to have a few hard ones, just like that. Okay, good luck.